Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the. Um, I'm so used to saying the other stuff. I almost said Marvel fan site. To the Spawn universe fan site that'll have plot synopsis and character bios for the issues we're going to look at. So we are going to finish up Todd McFarlane's run on Spawn. And when I say that, please excuse number one, please excuse my voice. I am getting over a cold. But when I say that, I mean the drawing part of it. As we have discussed in the last two videos, Todd is a bit rushed. He starts a toy company. He's doing this, he's doing that. And the dude really has a hard problem writing and drawing Spawn. Now, he gets Greg Capullo, and we are going to skip the Grant Morrison, Greg Capullo issues. So 16, 17, and 18, we're going to skip. He did that, so he had to take that off because he did man, here's what I mean about the art. Todd is definitely not doing his all. During this time, Rob Liefeld was still in Image, so I mean he's back at Image, but he's not a partner anymore. Anyway, so Youngblood is in there, and they're gonna use oh my gosh, I forgot his name, Chapel, as the guy who killed Spawn. And so anyway, um, so Todd is gonna draw, and we're gonna cover the Batman Spawn crossover. So Greg Capullo does those three issues, but then Greg Capullo has to do another issue, which is written by Tom Orzechowski, who's the letterer, and then Todd sort of returns up until I believe he does like 23, 24, and 25. But you can see then that Greg Capullo sort of does a lot of the penciling chores, and McFarlane's really just inking. Now, here you can see this is just not McFarlane quality. And the people that unfortunately lost in this battle that McFarlane had with making a toy company and being in charge of stuff were the fans who had to lose his art. And that's unfortunate. I will always say I'm all for people making money, but there's always a price for everything. And the price fans paid for Todd McFarlane to be super successful and own all this is his art. His art. He, if we can get a cover from him, that's about as lucky as we're gonna get. So when Greg Capullo takes over, I always found this part funny. So he gets rid of the flesh, makes a thing, but keeps the nose. This shouldn't be. This nose, by the way, your nose is made out of cartilage. The same stuff that he used to keep, to get rid of his face is the same thing that would get rid of the cartilage of the nose. Also, if he got rid of the muscles of the face, then you can't really speak, move your eyes, anything. Also, the muscles are what holds your eyes to the, there's the, I don't know. It's fine. It's a cool image. It's comic books, I guess. And out of all the things that are happening in this book, I guess that's the least of it. But it always struck me as funny that his nose was still in there. And so these are the last two issues that McFarlane will draw until like 21 maybe. We'll see here. I don't remember, but we're going to cover both these issues that are here, and then we will cover um, Spawn Batman, and then we will cover his final. I think it's his final three issue. But keep in mind, Greg Capullo does a lot of the heavy lifting. Now, Greg Capullo will come from Marvel Comics, where he was basically Rob Liefeld's heir to um, X Force, and he really blossomed. I mean, Greg Capullo is the penciler that I think we would have loved to have seen McFarlane become. He basically took McFarlaneisms and really upped the ante, or the ante. What is the word? I love it when they do the shadow things like that. Anyway, so Greg Capullo, actually, I believe he is a better penciler at Spawn than Todd McFarlane is. I will really say that. But this video is about Todd McFarlane, so no, we're not gonna cover the issues with Greg Capullo. Greg Capullo is fantastic, and yes, he pencils better than Todd. And when Todd was involved, still as the inker, I think this book really became wonderfully illustrated, because you had a penciler that really cared, and McFarlane could focus on making his wonderful ticks that he does. But he even stops doing that, and then Danny Miki ends up doing it, and then he has to give up writing. By the way, McFarlane, what the hell, man? What's with all these words? If you didn't put so many words, maybe you could he could put a little more time into the drawing. So the dude, I truly miss when McFarlane was an Amazing Spider-Man. That really was his apex. And when you look at his first couple issues of Spawn, like maybe Spawn 1 through 3, he really was doing a lot of heavy lifting. But you can see that everything after Spawn, probably around 4, he had to take shortcuts, and you can notice them a lot. And that's a shame, because I just remember worshiping this guy and his art. It was a game changer, but you can see here that he's just it's not mailing. He just doesn't have the time. He has a empire, which has always struck me as funny, with as left wing as he is, that he's so capitalist as well. I don't know which when you subscribe to an ideology, I don't know how people just, they just pick and choose, I guess, what parts they have. But he chose capitalism, and like I mentioned, and unfortunately, his art really suffered. You can see here that this is just not to the standards. And when you look at his Amazing Spider-Man run and his Singular Spider-Man run, that he really was doing something. You can see in his covers too. When he does his covers now, he he really puts his all into these covers nowadays. So, all right, one moment, and we're gonna skip those issues here. And so here we go. This is what he took off 5 issues of Spawn to do. And Frank Miller is the writer of this story here. And it was really a bit of so I was in college by the time this came out. And I really thought this book was going to be really incredible, and the probably the greatest book to ever have come out at that time. And I looked at it, and I really wanted to like it because I like Batman, and I like Todd McFarlane, and I like Frank Miller. So I don't really care much about Spawn. I've been very honest that I'm not a huge fan of Spawn, the character. I really don't care what's going on. I don't think I have read anything past those early issues. But this, I really was like, oh my God. And then this comes out, and I am in college going, what the hell is this? This is very weird. Look at Batman's look at his head. And I mean, we've already shown it a couple of times and we'll get to it, but his head, I mean, what the heck? Now, I believe he's doing the Frank Miller version of Batman. Nice figure of Spawn. Um and so Frank Miller does all his Batman stories that are based in his universe, kind of thing. That Dark Knight Returns, um, which is a kind of unlikable Batman. But man, Frank or Todd doesn't mean you have to draw him like this. Just he drew him so well in Batman Year Two. Um, this just I don't know. I just thought this was weird. I don't know. Do you guys think it's weird? I don't really care for this book. And I can't even blame McFarlane for the writing because this is all written by Frank Miller, who during this time, during this era, is just I don't know. It's weird because Sin City's out, which is wonderful, and he's got oh my God, Give Me Justice or Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death, which is wonderful. He wrote that and then drawn by the guy from Watchmen, Dave Gibbons, and he's doing a couple of other things. But at the same token, he's doing things like oh my gosh, what is that book that he did with Jeff Darrows? Hard Boiled. And I don't think that book is well written. I think Jeff Darrow saves that book because Jeff Darrows is an incredible artist. And Frank Miller is just doing some insane stuff. And then comes Dark Knight 2, and then I don't know. And the luster of that 80s Daredevil run and the way he wrote and the Ronin and Dark Knight Returns and then Sin City. He's wrote also after Daredevil. He goes back to Daredevil to do Born Again. I mean, look at this Batman, McFarlane. For God's sakes, what the hell? And um, Frank Miller is just doing so much great stuff, and then I don't know. This book is just not good. And then McFarlane is pretty much phoning it in. I don't know why, but people bought it. People bought it, and this book made gazillion dollars because of the names that are associated with this. This was heavily anticipated, but uh, I wanted to love it. I really did. I mean, I bought it without even really. I just kind of glanced through it, but I was like, oh, good, good. But I didn't pause to look at it. And then I'm looking at it because I'm looking at it when I buy it before really reading it. Going, he really is phoning it in, and which is funny because he took 5 months off Spawn to do this book. You think in 5 months he can do a 40-page book, and yeah, and it just didn't work. And then the writing was atrocious. I have this, so I bought the Spawn Batman 2-pack that McFarlane was releasing, and this was the piece in the back that, like, instead of a card that you could get. So, that's actually pretty cool. That's about the only cool image. This again hit. I don't know. Um, it's just weird. Um, and somehow McFarlane has never been able to do the sexy women the way Jim Lee and Mark Silvestri could. Um, and apparently can't do the superheroes either. So, by the time Greg Capullo comes, I bow out of Spawn. But little by little, um, believe it or not, these books were not that expensive. Until like I don't know the 2020s. When they went up in price, and this is a great shot here, and this is gonna be redone in the Greg Capullo does like a sketch on that. So, and then this was both Frank Miller and Todd McFarlane in the doing. I don't know this. I think this was in Wizard or something. So, anyway, so here we go with the end of the McFarlane run. Um, Now I gotta remember what I was talking about. Anyway, I can't remember the point I was trying to make. So anyway, here we go. McFarlane comes back as artist, but you're gonna start to see actually something. Here's where it got reused here, and um, Greg Capullo is gonna help him out some in the last two issues here. So we lose basically McFarlane, the penciler, which I think is okay if you take a look at this. We're okay with it, but then we end up losing McFarlane, the inker, and all with all apologies for Danny Miki, what is the freaking point of Spawn with no Todd McFarlane? You know, it's one of those things now that he does this thing with it's the longest independent title, and I'm like, dude, you don't do what he just publishes it. I mean, is that it? Is that where he is like, oh my god, my book is the highest, independent book. Is Image really independent? I know that they pride themselves in that, but they're the number three comic book publisher. It's not really independent anymore. I know that they like themselves as this freedom, uh, whatever artistic thing, but anyway, um, it's just something. And then like this, like what the hell, man? What is this? So I came back. I went back into uh collecting some of the Greg Capullo artwork because I went back to Spawn. I think by after the movie had come out, there is just so much clout on what Greg Capullo is doing, and I was amazed. I actually picked up an issue of Spawn, and I'm like, this is really well done. This is even better than the McFarlane stuff. So I actually, in a lot of dollar bins and a lot of cheap places, I was able to get a lot of these back issues for like $1.50 in some places. These were not expensive to get at all. Up until, like I said, up until about 2020 is when comic books became insane again. Just unbelievable. And what the hell, man? What's with all this words? I mean, look at this. This is, Jesus. Anyway, ugh. So this is Capullo. You can tell that's Capullo, here. So, but he was not. Um, I don't believe it. It said Todd McFarlane, writer artist. So, but yeah, that those couple pages were definitely. This is Greg Capullo too. I think McFarlane might be inking, but Greg Capullo is penciling these issues, which I do think they are better looking for it. So, um, Greg Capullo really does become the best Spawn um, artist out there, better even than Todd. So I think I'm remembering what I was talking about. I think I was talking about the politics and the but then again this is Capullo here. And but then leaning into capitalism, which almost does seem to be a contradiction with modern liberalism. I'm not saying liberalism as a whole, but modern liberalism. There we go. Special thanks to Greg Capullo. Does seem to have a lot of ooh capitalism bad, and these image guys will not sign. Todd signs and Jim signs, but a lot of them want their freaking money for you to sign something, and that's fine. But sometimes I just go, but hey. So this is Capullo. I think instead of saying special thanks to Greg Capullo, he should have just said Greg Capullo drew this whole fucking thing and I'm still inking it. Maybe I penciled this or that, but goodness gracious. It looks so different. I mean, the styles at least at that time, but eventually by the time Capullo leaves in issue 100, this book had a completely different look than anything Todd had done. So anyway, going back, last thing about the politic thing, and then I'll leave out of it because I normally don't really care about talking about politics. I just don't I sometimes just go how do you pick one thing versus another. How do you know what to pick? But I guess that's what makes us humans. But anyway, that's it. Um, Capullo definitely. Capullo. This could be Todd, but the I don't care, Todd. So, goodness gracious. Look, that's Capullo. I think this might be Todd. By the time it comes, and we may actually do the first issue together, and you guys tell me if it looks better than what you've been kind of seeing so far. Also, the coloring doesn't work very well. I don't know. This colorist here, love this cover. These covers, by the way, are great. And so here we go. I think 25. So I think this is the last quote unquote Todd McFarlane artist issue. Now he does come back, I believe, in number 50 and does two chapters of the four chapters in there, and Capullo does the other two. Um, I think he comes back for 100 and does a thing, but I really don't know what's going on. Um, Overall with it, I bowed out of Spawn. Um, excuse me here. I, for the most part, only have this is all Capullo here. Have his a couple of his covers that he did lately. I have a TikTok. I have a McFarlane wall. If you guys wanna, it's Comics with Jose. If you wanna go in there and take a look, I have a little McFarlane wall that I've done with all the stuff that I have from him. I got a couple of those spawns that people love because I like the covers. This is definitely Capullo here. And there are some, like I said, there are some very cool stuff that's coming up with Capullo. And I think we'll just look at least at 25. Excuse me. Like I said, I'm getting over a cold. And so here we go. Nope, this one is Mark Silvestri. If I remember correctly, this is one where the image partners were going to I'm just gonna kind of skip here for it because Todd. Oh, what the hell? We should just look at it. My bad. I don't know. That was indecisive of me. All right, so Here we go. Who is the inker? Uh, so Billy Tan and Bat is Matt Banning, and he goes by Bat. I don't know. It just was that era. Um, Mark Silvestri is a much better penciler than everyone except Jim Lee. I think Jim Lee is equal to Mark Silvestri in pencils. However, in overall style, um, I don't know. Who do you think? I think. Um, oh my goodness gracious, Silvestri should put spots in more black, and Jim Lee. Sorry, I had a hiccup there, and Jim Lee does more hatching. But they both do tons of hatching, so I don't know if that's even fair. So, but this issue by itself looks much better than the last four issues McFarlane drew, unfortunately, because the luster of Spawn really started to disappear. And this story's McFarlane's still doing the story here, but all the image partners, the McFarlane issue that he did of Cyberforce, I'm gonna be um probably showing that. So now that we're doing this, you know what? I'll see if I can dig it out real quick before the end of the video, and we'll take a look at the Cyberforce. Okay, so 26. This is the official first Greg Capullo. And Greg is doing the pencils, even though McFarlane is first, and McFarlane is doing the inks. So here we go. Let's see what happens now when McFarlane just has a chance to ink, and you can see the rendering is back. Look at the inking there. It is so much better. Unfortunately, idiot me didn't think so at the time, and I was like, "Oh, you're not Todd McFarlane." And all I could remember was that I didn't like those replacement Spawn issues that Greg Capullo had done with Grant Morrison that I sort of skipped over here. And this is a much different one. Like I said, I have gone back and bought them. So I actually have every issue of Spawn between 1 and 100. And I once again skipped out after 100 and never went back. I shouldn't say never. Bought issues here and there. I didn't really, however, complete runs, and I bought then by when he was doing issue 300, when he started to do the covers. So I picked up 298, which he did a Batman 198, or sorry, Batman 298 homage, and then he did a 299, and also had done a Amazing Spider-Man 299 homage, and then 300 he did an homage. So I love this image here. And so we will look at this will be our last one, and then we will do the oh my goodness, Cyberforce issue that McFarlane drew when Silvestri was doing, and you can see here the rendering. Sorry, when Silvestri was doing Spawn, and it is better rendered, more. McFarlane's really concentrating because he doesn't have to do the pencils, and then he gives up inking, and then it becomes even less of a McFarlane thing. But Greg Capullo really carried this for 75 issues. Greg Capullo was the guy that just continued to make Spawn at least semi interesting. McFarlane, despite the fact that he has written so many issues, even now he doesn't even, and he turns into a plotter a lot of times after issue 100. You think he'd be a little bit better at it, but man, this guy just can't seem to not put so many words in it. So, yeah. And so we are just gonna go to the. Is this the last page? I don't know. We're gonna go until the last page, and then we will pick up Cyberforce with McFarlane, and then end his basically his image run as artist. And then I'm gonna do a video next weekend where we'll just go through some of those covers that he has done. So, all right, think that ends the Spawn. So this is the last book that Todd pencils for a really long time. I think, like I mentioned, issue 50 of Spawn. So it'll be a bit. So McFarlane pencils this issue, but I don't believe he inked it. Um, I believe he only penciled this issue. And you can actually tell that because he's just providing the pencils, that the book sort of looks better than what he was doing in Spawn. So when I showed you that Mark Silvestri stuff, at the same time, he was doing this. So all the image partners had swapped books, essentially. So, and yeah, this isn't bad. I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's not terrible. It's not great. It's just kind of whatever. And that unfortunately wasn't what Todd McFarlane was supposed to be. But unfortunately, oh, that poor dog. Unfortunately, it's what happens when you own a company and you have other stuff to do and you have employees and you have all these other things, and opportunity costs. You can only do something at a time. You can't do, say, two things at a time. There's only so much you can do. So for every page, for everything that he has to do, he has to give up a page, or he has to give up this or that. And it's unfortunate that we just don't get too much McFarlane anymore. But every time he does a cover, he just did the Battle Beast number 7. He did a variant cover for that, and boy, did I love it. So, definitely worth getting. He also did that. That's it. That concludes the issue. He also did the Marvel Team Up Spider-Man Invisible. He did one of the variant covers. So, all right, we conclude the Todd McFarlane Spawn run with him as penciler, and I have to say it was weak. It ended weak, but wait, as you notice, when Greg Capullo took over as penciler and McFarlane was doing the inking, it picked up. So McFarlane has the inking chops. He's got the pencil chops too. It's just that he again doesn't have the time, so something's got to give. But I love Todd McFarlane. I have a Todd McFarlane playlist. I am a huge fan. I know that it seems perhaps I'm a little down on it. I'm just disappointed that there's just not more out there like that early stuff. Unfortunately, that Amazing Spider-Man run is going to be the peak McFarlane. It is what it is. But I got to enjoy a lot of that stuff. I love his art and am a huge fan. And every time he does a cover or something, I pick it up. So like and subscribe. I do thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.